Okay, so ready for part 2 of tonight's session. We're going to go through some of the common Buddhist rituals and chanting. Actually, this is quite interesting because I have quite a number of people asking about this ritual, that ritual, this chanting, that chanting. Actually, what on earth are all these rituals about? And like some of these people are very confused. What actually do they mean? Is it just superstition? Is it just something you do for the sake of doing? Is it just tradition? Or are there any deeper meanings behind it? So I'm going to look at this a bit more closely in this other lesson. So common Buddhist rituals and chanting. Some of the rituals I'm going to go through tonight are things like prostrations. You always bow before the Buddha. Offerings of various items. Sharing of merits. Circumambulation means you walk around the stupa or the temple or whatever is the item of veneration, maybe a Bodhi tree. Sacred traits. Anybody here wearing sacred traits? There one brother, sacred traits, right? Okay. So quite common, a lot of Theravadan Buddhists, they wear these sacred traits. So what are these sacred traits actually? Then Katina, one of the biggest events in the Theravadan Buddhist calendar, this Katina celebrations, Katina festivals. Then the Hungry Ghost Festival, one of the things people ask a lot of questions on all these hungry ghosts. Actually got such thing or not, or how these things originated, what do these things mean? So these are some of the rituals we shall be going through. And the chanting, most of you may know, homage to the Buddha, taking refuge, the 5 precepts, and the recollection of the triple gem of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Before we go into these things, let's consider a few points. We're talking about rituals and chanting. But rituals, chanting, prayers, petitions, worship are usually not considered part of the Noble Eightfold Path as taught by the Buddha. The Noble Eightfold Path is right speech, right action, right livelihood, morality or sila. Right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, mental development or samadhi. Right understanding, right thought, wisdom or panya. So all these rituals, chanting, nowhere in the Noble Eightfold Path. So we got to keep this in mind. Why then do Buddhists resort to these practices? And then, should Buddhists continue with these practices? So as I go along with this talk, as I go along exploring these different rituals and chantings, keep this in mind. Number 1, why do Buddhists resort to these practices? Number 2, should we continue with these practices or not? Taking into consideration that all these things are not part of the Noble Eightfold Path as taught by the Buddha. Okay, now we go to prostrations. So this is made towards a statue which represents the memory of the Buddha to show our respect and gratitude for his compassion and teachings. So many people, they have the wrong idea that Buddhists worship idols, pray to idols, but actually we are not worshipping or praying to idols. We are just showing our respect and gratitude for the Buddha's compassion and teachings, and these prostrations are also made to cultivate our humility and to lessen our conceit. So knowledgeable Buddhists do not pray to, do not worship, and certainly do not ask favors from statues. I'm talking about knowledgeable Buddhists because I think easily 90% of Buddhists, Gnostic Buddhists, they do all these things. They all go to temples to pray, worship, and ask favors from Buddha statues, Kuan Yin statues, whatever the case may be. So prostrations is usually the first thing that a Buddhist does when he goes to a temple. So 3 prostrations are made. 1 is to the Buddha, the second to the Dhamma, and the third is to the Sangha. That's the reason for 3 prostrations in general. So Theravadan Buddhists, we make a 5-point prostration. In other words, our forehead, our elbows, and our knees touch the ground. This is what we mean by a 5-point prostration. Generally, Mahayana Buddhists also make a 5-point prostration, whereas Tibetan Buddhists, they make full body prostrations. They really go flat out on the floor. They stretch themselves out on the floor. And this by itself is a practice when done in large numbers. Some of these Tibetan Buddhists, they vow to do 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, 1,000,000 prostrations within their lifetimes. So I guess it's a sign of devotion also. So it's quite interesting. I once came across this Australian, Caucasian guy, Buddhist from Australia. So he came to Singapore, got to know my website. So brought him to Buddhist Burmese temple at this Balestier there. So I just do my normal prostration. Then I see him, wow, full body prostration. I mean, it's interesting to see a Caucasian doing all this. And all around all of us, Chinese, Asians, Burmese, whatever, And then this Angmo, full body prostration, better than us. So I said, wow, you're really quite good. So I said, yeah, he's used to it, he likes doing it, so okay lah, fine lah. Some of these Western practitioners, Caucasian practitioners, are actually really quite good. Much better than a lot of us Asian practitioners, so you'll be surprised. This is a 5-point prostration in the Theravadan style. That means your palms are quite close together, then your forehead touches in between the palms. This is a Mahayana prostration. In other words, your palms, after it's put down flat on the ground, then it's turned up. So there's 2 reasons for doing this. Some people, they explain that you turn your palms up to receive blessings. That's one explanation. Then the other explanation is that your palms are up to lift the Buddha above you. That means it's a sign of respect and devotion. When you face your palms up, imagine that you are lifting the Buddha above your head. So that's the other explanation. I'm sure there are other explanations, but these are the 2 that I came across as to why Mahayana Buddhists, after they place their palms down on the ground, then they turn them over. And of course, this is the Tibetan prostrations. There are these boards of wood which are very smooth. So they really do like thousands and thousands of these prostrations. But I guess if you do it mindfully, then it may be a benefit. If you just do it blindly, then it doesn't mean anything. So after the prostrations, there are the offerings of various items. In our pujas, offerings, you can see offerings of candles. So candles generally represent the Dharma, dispelling the darkness of our ignorance and delusion. The incense represents the fragrance of the Dharma pervading the whole world. The flowers is the most interesting to me. The flowers are supposed to remind us of the impermanence of our bodies. That means the flowers, when we offer during the pujas, they're very fresh, nice smelling. But even after just 1 or 2 days, they start to fade, they start to wither. Then you got to throw them away, very much like our bodies. Right now we are young, we are fit, we are healthy. Within our lifetime, we can see ourselves age, get old, get sick. Our body also, we have to throw away. So that reminds ourselves of the impermanence of our bodies, and that we really should strive to learn, practice, share as much as we can while we are still healthy, while we are still fit. Next is water. Water is signifying the purity of our minds. It means to practice meditation, to purify our minds such that our minds become as clear as the water that we offer. Fruits. One of the explanations, fruits, is to remind ourselves that we are subject to our own karma. Whatever we do, we will bear fruits. Good fruits or bad fruits, depending on whether we do positive or negative actions. Some explanation of fruits is the desire that all beings will have enough food to eat, enough sustenance to eat. That means when you offer the fruits, you also do it with the wish that all beings have enough food to eat, do not have to go hungry. So all these things, there's different explanations, but these are the ones that I think are the most meaningful to me. So I just explain it in this way. I'm sure you all possibly even have your own interpretations of these various items. So this is an offering in the Theravadan temple. Okay, next, sharing of merits. So sharing of merits is an action that we share the positive karma that we have accumulated with our departed relatives and also all other beings for their own happiness. That means whatever good things we've done, that we've kept the precepts, that we've done generosity, that we've helped people, we bring this to mind and we invite our departed relatives to share in our happiness that we have done such things that, please be happy for us, that when you're happy, you'll be in a better state of mind for a better rebirth. So we share this positive karma. Some people, they call it transferring of merits. But actually, that is a wrong term because merits can never be transferred. Karma can never be transferred. You do a good action, how can you transfer to someone else? That is totally against the principle of karma, totally against the teachings of Buddhism. So the only thing you can do is that when you do something good, you share the happiness of your action. People say you transfer merits. Well, I think it's not correct. You can't really share your good karma with others because we bear the fruits of our own karma. The other beings, they bear the fruits of their own karma. So if we can do good things and then transfer to other people, then we don't need to do good things already. Let other people transfer good things to us. So in that case, if you do bad things, can you transfer to other people also? Cannot, right? So if you cannot transfer bad things, bad karma to other people, then how can you also transfer good karma to other people? Again, totally against the principle of karma. So sharing of merits is actually just to invite your relatives, other beings, to share in the happiness of your good actions. That's about it. And when they are happy, they rejoice, they are also in a good state of mind. Because when they share in your happiness, what are they practicing? They are practicing compassion and mudita. They are practicing compassion and sympathetic joy. Because they're happy when you are happy. So it's a good action for us to share merits. It's not something which is no good, but it is something which is good. So the process is actually we have our merits, we have the water representing our merits from a pitcher is poured into a small cup, which represents our departed relatives in a larger bowl. So the water overflowing in these ceremonies is signifying our generosity. That means our good karma, we have enough good karma overflowing that our relatives can also share. Because if we don't do good things, how can we share with our relatives? There's one monk that told me, Ajahn King, Wat Palelai, he said, you want to do metta, right? You must have metta first, right? So how can you share merits if you don't have merits? It's like you ask somebody, now take a drink from this cup, but your cup inside nothing. So you offer people a drink, but your cup inside nothing. So how? So you must have the merits, you must have the good actions first before you can share with people, right? So if we do all the good things, then it's of some benefit. If not, it's totally useless. So sharing of merits, usually they join up, like you touch each other's shoulders to make the connection. The other thing Buddhists like to do is circumambulation, walking around an object of veneration such as a stupa, a Bodhi tree or a Buddha statue. This is usually done 3 times in a clockwise direction. But this must be done mindfully, contemplating the object of veneration, contemplating, for example, the qualities of the Buddha. If not, it becomes meaningless. You're just walking around for exercise, that's about it. But some people believe you just walk around, you can eradicate your negative karma. Some people really believe this. But you can't. Again, like I said, it's totally against the principle of karma. You walk around the stupa mindlessly, eradicate your karma. I think highly unlikely, right? But you can possibly accumulate positive karma if you do it mindfully. If you do it as a process of walking meditation. If you do it while contemplating the compassion of the Buddha, for example, the compassion of the Buddha, if you contemplate the teachings of the Buddha, then there's some significance to it. Then it doesn't become meaningless. Then possibly it works a little bit. You can acquire some good karma out of it. These are some of the monks in India walking around this stupa here. When this was in the BF trip a few years ago, the Good Fellowship trip. This is an English monk and a Canadian monk. So 2 Angmo monks, really good monks. Okay, sacred threads is what we mentioned just now. So a sacred thread is taken from a ball of coloured thread, usually orange or white, and this is unravelled during special ceremonies and held at the fingertips of the monks and also the devotees. So this is done during chanting. So the belief is that the chanting will imbue the thread, which is sometimes connected to these bottles of water. Then they call them holy water. And the chanting will imbue this thread with blessings and good luck. And of course, this thread is later on cut into small pieces and tied around the wrist. Sometimes it's quite colourful. They have the 5 colours. They represent the aura of the Buddha, the 5 Buddhist colours. So this is supposed to give you blessings and good luck. As you can see from this picture, the monks are chanting. They are holding the thread at their fingertips to transfer their mental energy to the thread and then also to the holy water. So I don't know whether some of you have seen in some of the Thai temples, seen this ceremony in some of the Thai temples, very elaborate. They had this ceremony at Palelai, the opening at Palelai, I think last year or the year before. So these threads running all over the temple, all over the ceiling. When the time comes for chanting, they just pull the thread down and then everybody holds the thread. And then they chant, they meditate, and then it connects to the string and then to the water. Okay, so this works or not? Whether your mental energy can be transferred to a thread or, for example, to a bottle of water. Okay, there's this thing called Heido. Some of you may have heard of it. This Japanese research. You can go to the website Heido, H-A-E-O.net. It's called Welcome to the World of Water. So what this Japanese researcher called Dr. Emoto did is that they have these scientific experiments. They have this water. What happens is that a group of volunteers, they sit or stand around this vial of water. They don't come close to the water. There's no physical contact with the water. They transmit thoughts of love to the water. They transmit thoughts of compassion to the water. Then they go and freeze the water. Then later on they take another vial of water. They try to project thoughts of hatred, thoughts of ill will, ugly thoughts to the water. Then they freeze the water. So what happens is that they found out that using this photography, the water actually forms crystals. And the crystals actually form according to the thoughts. That is, if you project wholesome thoughts to the water, it tends to form into nice patterns. Like it says here, the water that has been exposed to loving words shows brilliant, complex and colourful patterns. But in contrast, the water exposed to negative thoughts, they form quite ugly patterns and dull colors and so on and so forth. So this experiment shows that your thoughts can actually affect inanimate objects such as water. So maybe the Buddhists, they know something which the scientists now are just coming to know. Like you do metta, you do loving kindness. You project your thoughts of loving kindness to people around you, to someone who is sick. Maybe you can work, who knows? And then the thing is that these Japanese scientists prove that your thoughts can affect water. And what is a human being made of? Human being is 85% water. So this is something just to think about. So maybe all this chanting, maybe all these thoughts, maybe all this meditation can have a certain effect if your mind, I suppose, is trained enough, if it's powerful enough. So this shouldn't be just written off as mere superstition. For that matter, prayers or that also may have a certain effect, such as this. Okay, now we come to Katina robe offerings, one of the biggest celebrations in the Buddhist calendar. So this stems from a rule made by the Buddha that monks have to spend 3 months in a year staying in one place during the rainy season in India. What happens is that because in India they have a very long rainy season of 4 months, and during the Buddha's time when the monks went around, they created a lot of disruption during the rainy season, because when it's wet, all the insects come up, and then when the monks walk here and there, then they kill all these insects unknowingly. So the Buddha instituted the rule that during a rainy season, the monks usually have to stay in one place. So this is called a vasa. That means if a monk stays for 4 months during this period, that's considered one vasa. And the monks, they take their seniority by the number of vasas that they have. So this Katina festival is celebrated at the end of this vasa, at the end of this rainy retreat. So it is usually held in the new moon day of October, where the laity present gifts to the monks, especially robes, in gratitude for their teachings. So this is a picture of a festival. All the lay people, they present the robes and of course some of the other requisites to the monks. This is a huge Katina festival in Bangkok, by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands of people. Any of you know this place called Wat Dhammakaya? If you go to Bangkok, you should visit this temple, Wat Dhammakaya. You can go and search internet also. Dhamma, Dhamma, Kaya, Kaya. The biggest Buddhist temple in the world. It's a massive place. This thing is made of pure gold. And this is only part of the temple. One part of the temple. You must go there, it's quite amazing. Their meditation retreats. You know the meditation retreats, each time they can accommodate how many people? Each time they can accommodate 1 million people. And how they calculate 1 million people? Because they go by the tile. That means 1 square meter. So they count by the number of square meter. So each meditation retreat, they can literally accommodate 1 million people. It's quite mind-boggling. Okay, now we come to one of the most interesting topics, Hungry Ghost Festival. So this is celebrated during the 7th month of the lunar calendar, when it is believed that the gates of hell are open for the spirits of the deceased to visit the land of the living. So during this festival, prayers, food, hell, money, even paper houses and cars are offered to the spirits of dead relatives. The idea is to provide them with these things to ease their suffering in hell. So even in Singapore, Malaysia, concerts, musical concerts are staged for these spirits with empty seats reserved for these spirits to enjoy these concerts and these singing events. I think this is probably taken in one of the big temples, maybe Pokaksi. So there are these offerings, there are the names of the ancestors, the names of the deceased, and then prayers are made, offerings are made. There are all these offerings of food made to the deceased, and all the hell money. So you can burn all this. And I think it's quite interesting because all these represent different things. I also would like to know what each item represents. Then they burn in all these big ceremonies, so create a lot of pollution and a lot of wastage of paper. And of course, these Kotai festivals. So in front got empty seats, don't go and sit in them. They're supposed to be reserved for the spirits. So okay, this Hungry Ghost Festival, both Buddhists and Taoists claim to have originated this festival. But it is likely that this is rooted in traditional Chinese folk religion and culture and ancestor worship. This is unlikely to be genuinely a Buddhist festival. But there are some instances that the Buddhists claim it is a Buddhist festival. For example, this Hungry Ghost Festival is called Ulambana. It is taken from a Mahayana sutra of the same name. So, but this sutra is of course written several hundred years after the Buddha's passing, and this Ulambana festival is observed primarily by Mahayana and Tibetan Buddhists, not by Theravada Buddhists. So basically this Ulambana Sutra describes the experiences of one of the Buddha's chief disciples called Moggallana, Mu Lian in Chinese. So according to this sutra, the disciple, Moggallana, discovered that his mother had been reborn as a hungry ghost due to her misdeeds. So the Buddha instructed him to offer food and robes to the monks and dedicate the merits to his mother. So the mother then supposedly was able to enjoy these offerings and then was able to be reborn thereafter. So this is possibly the origination of the Hungry Ghost Festival. So people think that during this 7 months, all the ghosts all come out. But actually, strictly speaking, they are around all the time. But people can see these things. I mean, there are people who really can see these things, all these spirits and all that. So they also wonder, how come during this Hungry Ghost month they can see so many more than usual? So is it because they're really released and then they come out, that's why you can see so many during this Hungry Ghost month? Well, the explanation is not really. Because you hold all these burning ceremonies, you invite them all to come, then they sure come. So people say you're actually throwing a party for them. They invite them to come, they sure come. So that's one of the reasons. But actually, like I said, these spirits are around us all the time. And then, the only thing we can do is to share our compassion, share our loving kindness with them. And then they get this positive energy, and that's about it. That's about all we can do. So whether or not they can benefit from these paper offerings or these burning offerings, that's a question which is still unclear, because there are instances whereby people say that, they dream that their departed relative asked for this, asked for that, then they go and burn, and then the relative come back and thank them, or else they don't have these dreams anymore. So whether it's true or whether it's psychological, nobody knows. Maybe it's psychological. Highly likely it's psychological. Like one of my Dharma teachers at Mangala Vihara, she said one of her friends, I think the son or something like that, passed away. So passed away already, then keep dreaming about the son. The son keep asking for books. He wants his books. So the mother go and burn the books. Then after burn the books, then okay. So psychological or not, well, we don't know. So there's a basis for this or not, we are not sure. More important is that we can share our good karma, share with them, invite them to share our good karma with them. Then they can rejoice, and then they can have a better energy, and then maybe they can have a better rebirth after that. Okay, that's it for the rituals. Any questions?
You said share merits. Does it mean that water, cold water, lunchtime? Or is it that just we say in your heart, you need to be aware of that?
Okay, sister is asking sharing of merits. Is it the actual ceremony of sharing of merits, pouring the water? Is that the sharing of merits, or is it the sharing of merits that we do mentally, that we do within ourselves? Is that your question? Which is it? Okay, the ceremony is just symbolism. That means it's just a ceremony that everybody gets together and then performs this ceremony together. But actually, you can do it yourself. You don't really need this pouring water. It's just symbolism. Like I said just now, the water is to represent your merits. The cup is to represent your departed relatives, and the water overflowing into the bigger bowl is to represent that you have enough merits that you can share with your relatives. So it's the mental action which is more important, not the pouring of water. Because if you've got no merits, you pour so much water into a pail, also nothing. I mean, if you don't think about sharing the merits, you just pour, also useless. So the important thing is to share it mentally, and not necessarily you must need a ceremony to do it. You can do it after meditation. You can do it after a good deed. So what basically people do, or what I would advise, is that after you do a good deed, after you do some dana, after maybe you serve food to the monks, then you do it. That's the best time to do it. Because you have just accumulated the positive karma. Then you share mentally with your departed relatives, with all beings near and far, visible and invisible. That's the time you do it. After meditation, you do it. In fact, the best is after meditation. Because the highest karma you can accumulate is through meditation. Why? Because how did the Buddha get enlightenment? It's through meditation. It's not through practicing morality. It's not through practicing generosity. But it's through practicing meditation. So the greatest amount of karma you generate is through meditation. And then after meditation, you can actually share these merits, or invite other beings to share these merits more effectively, because then you really, really have a lot of merits to share. So that's one thing you can do. After metta, you do some metta meditation. After some vipassana meditation, then you share merits. Who answer your question? Any more questions?
He also goes back to the reverence and all those things. I think it's a good thing to do it to respect them for all the leaving of homes, sacrifices, all these enjoyments that we are common people have.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I agree with you 100%. So the brother here said that to make prostrations, pay reverence and respect to the monks is a good thing, right? So yes, it's definitely a good thing because we have to respect the monks. Like the brother said, they have renounced, they have really gone on the Buddha's path to practice. And not only that, they lead us, they show us a good example to practice. And then they also teach us. So yes, we should acknowledge our reverence and respect to the monks. And then of course, during the process of kneeling down to them, making the prostrations, we keep this in mind. We have in mind our respect and gratitude for the monks. So yes, precisely you are absolutely correct. In fact, when you do your prostrations to the Buddha statue, you just don't do it blindly like that with an empty mind. You do it contemplating the Buddha, teaching the Dharma to the Sangha. That means when you kneel, you contemplate the Buddha, you contemplate the Dharma, you contemplate the Sangha. Then at least you don't do it just for the sake of it, but also your mind goes according with your actions. Okay, now we go to the chanting. I think most simple one is the homage to the Buddha, to express our gratitude and respect to the Buddha for his compassion and teaching. So I'm sure all of you all know this. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So this means honor to him, the blessed one, the worthy one, the fully enlightened one. So when you chant this, you also should try to visualize the Buddha, not just to chant blindly, but to keep in mind the qualities of the Buddha. The next chanting that we should do is the taking of refuge. This reaffirms our commitment as Buddhists and maintains our karmic link with the Triple Gem for our future lives. Because this is a repetitive practice. If we always do this, then this creates a link in our mind. This creates a positive karma which leads to the karmic link with the Triple Gem for our future lives. Most of you will know Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. To the Buddha for refuge I go. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. To the Dharma for refuge I go. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. To the Sangha for refuge I go. Then you repeat this another 2 times for a total of 3 times. So I won't go through this because I think all of you should be familiar with this. Then you chant the 5 precepts, Pancha Sila. So we chant not just for the sake of chanting, but remind ourselves of these training rules and our commitment to try our best to observe them. So when you chant the 5 precepts, be aware of the precept that you are chanting and your commitment to try your best to observe them. So again, the first precept, Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the training rule to abstain from taking life. So Panatipata is taking life. Sikkhapadang is actually the training rule. Then the next one, Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the training rule to abstain from taking what is not given. Kamisu Michachara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the training rule to abstain from sexual misconduct. Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the training rule to abstain from false speech. Then Sura Miraya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the training rule to abstain from intoxicants and drugs that cause heedlessness. So keep in mind this as you chant the Panchasila, the 5 precepts. And then finally, the recollection of the qualities of the Triple Gem, the Itipiso Bhagava Arahant chant. So this is to recollect, contemplate, and remind ourselves of the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Itipiso chant, the translation is actually, the Blessed One is an Arahant, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate knower of the worlds, unsurpassed leader or person to be trained, teacher of devas and humans, the enlightened one, the Blessed One. Then recollection of the qualities of the Triple Gem of the Dharma. The Dharma is well expounded by the Blessed One, which can be directly experienced with immediate results, to be approached, to be seen, capable of being attained, to be comprehended by the wise, each for himself. Then the Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is good, upright, wise and dutiful. The 4 pairs of individuals, the 8 types of individuals. This means the Sri Mantra, once returner, non-returner, and arahant for males and females. That's how you get 4 persons and 8 types of individuals, male and female. Then the Sangha is worthy of gifts, hospitality, offerings, reverence, and the Sangha is an unsurpassed field of merits for the world. So there's a chanting sheet I'll pass out to you all later. All the translations and wordings are there for you all to follow. Okay, now come to the most important point of this talk on the rituals and chanting. So just now I asked you all, right, to keep in mind as we go through all the different things. Why do Buddhists resort to these practices? Number one, it can be because of respect and humility. To show respect to the Triple Gem and to express our humility that we are able to learn the teachings of the Dharma. Because if a person is not humble, if a person does not have enough humility, how can he even practice or learn the Dharma? Right? So this is important for our practice, that we must have a certain amount of respect and humility in order to learn and practice the Dharma. So these rituals and chanting is also for us to remind ourselves and to recollect the qualities, as I mentioned, of the Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. It's also to reinforce good habits, because when you do these things, for Buddhists, these are considered as good habits. The more you do, the better you are, because this will lead to a repetitive action for the benefit of this life and our future lives. And it also provides psychological support, because when you do these things, this also gives us Buddhists, those who need it, a certain amount of confidence. Because you also need a certain amount of confidence in the Triple Gem to progress, especially for those who are quite new. So when you do this, some of these rituals and chantings, you do get some psychological support. It also helps us to exercise generosity. Even the action of sharing of merits is an exercise in generosity. Because some people think, oh, I share merits with others. I don't want to share it because then I got less merits. So it doesn't work that way. The more you share, the more better merits you have. So in fact, even sharing of merits is also an exercise in generosity. And also there's some therapeutic effects. When you chant, you have peace of mind, you become calmer. Sometimes when you chant the Metta Sutta, loving kindness sutta to someone who is not feeling well, they may feel better. Not necessarily because of the sutta, but because you all are there to show your support, to show that they have friends, relatives, to sit there and chant to them to make them feel better. So there's also a therapeutic effect in these rituals and chantings. And also, it's a prelude to other practices. That means before you meditate, for example, you do a bit of chanting. This is what I do. Before I start to meditate, I will go through a couple of rounds of chanting to calm your mind. Because through chanting also you can focus your mind. Some people, they just chant, they chant, and then their mind run here, run there, they don't even know about it. So as you chant, you can focus your mind on the chanting. That you know that you're focused, that your mind hasn't wandered away. And this is a good prelude. This is a good start before you meditate, before the practice. You do a bit of chanting, focus, calm your mind, and then you start to meditate. So these things can be a prelude to other practices, and it can also be a social activity, a form of bonding for Buddhists to come together, for spiritual friends to come together. Like the sharing of merits rituals, like the sister here said just now, everybody touch the shoulder, pour water, and all that. So it's a ceremony, but it also helps to create bonding. Katina ceremony, everybody comes together in these big festivals, offer robes to the monks. It's a social activity. It's a chance for Buddhists to meet, get together, socialize with other like-minded Buddhists. And then through more spiritual friends, this also supports your learning, your practice, and gives you an opportunity to share with others. So learn, practice, and share. Okay, these are the good things. These are the good reasons why Buddhists resort to these practices. Some of the bad reasons. Now, some of the negative reasons, because of ignorance. Many people, they just do these rituals, they don't know the reason, but they just do. So that is no good, because you just do without a reason, then it's just blind ignorance, wrong views. Like I mentioned just now, some people think you just walk around the Bodhi tree, you can clear your negative karma. So, a wrong view, not so good. Attachment to tradition. Just because your family practice puja, you also practice puja, but you actually don't know the meaning, why you offer this, why you offer that. So because your family practice, you take it as tradition, attachment to tradition, you go and do. You might as well not do because you don't know the meaning. But people do it because of their attachment to tradition. The other thing is excessive faith and devotion. You have too much faith, too much devotion, you do all this ritual, that ritual, also useless. So, but you must know the meaning behind it, then at least there's some significance. And then over-dependence. Some people too over-dependent on these rituals. Like they think chanting, they do chanting can already. They don't need to practice morality. They don't need to practice generosity. They don't need to practice meditation. So they just chant. They're dependent on chanting. Also not so good. Easy way out. Like I said, clear your bad karma. You can ask for this, ask for that. Simple. No need to do the proper practice of Buddhism according to the Eightfold Path, according to Dana, Sila, Bhavana, according to Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Easy way out. The other is, of course, greed and desire. Go temple, ask for this, ask for that, pray for this, pray for that. Give donation in the hope of getting other things back. Also not so good. When you give a donation, try to do so with a pure mind, without any strings attached, out of pure compassion and generosity. But people do resort to a lot of rituals and chantings because of greed and desire. The other thing, you'll be surprised because of hatred and aversion. They go temple, hey, you hope this person something bad happened to him and all that. But it's true, there are people who really get involved in such things. Even, for example, some of these Thai politics. Right now, you're seeing all these happenings in Bangkok, red shirt, yellow shirts, and all this. They actually have these rituals to go and wish harm on the other party. Not so good, huh? So these are the negative reasons why Buddhists resort to these practices. And this is important, because when you yourself do all these practices, you must know yourself. You do it for these reasons, for the good reasons. You do it because of respect and humility, because you want to remind and recollect yourself of the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. You want to reinforce good habits. You may want some psychological support. You want to exercise generosity. You want to help somebody else to get better. As a prelude to other practice, as a social activity. Do you resort to these practices? Do you do these rituals and chanting for these positive reasons or for these negative reasons? So you must know yourself. Because if you do it for the wrong reasons, then I think better not to do. If you do it for the right reasons, then fine, go ahead and do it. In fact, do it more. So this is something also you can share, you can explain to your friends, to your relatives who do these practices. If you do it for the wrong reasons, not so good. In fact, maybe bad karma also. So better, in that case, better not to do. So this is something we all have to keep in mind, why we do these practices. So these practices may be done in ignorance or for the wrong reasons, but also we should not write them off totally. Because for some people, they need these things psychologically. They need these things to be stepping stones, because they not be so knowledgeable, they may not be ready to commence on the proper practice of Buddhism, so maybe they just use these rituals, these chantings as stepping stones. So we should not write this off entirely either. So maybe sooner or later they will come to the proper practice of Buddhism as taught by the Buddha. But like I said, most important, we should always be mindful of our own reasons for doing these practices. Do it for the positive reasons and not for the negative reasons. So the question now is that, should Buddhists continue with these practices, since it's not part of the Eightfold Path? So even though these practices may be good, but they are not part of the Eightfold Path, so should we do or not? So we should ask ourselves, so we should keep in mind, we should not do these practices if it is a hindrance to our practice. We can continue with these practices, we should continue with these practices if it assists our progress. Because if we do these practices as a form of cultivation of humility, as a form of generosity, yes, it assists our progress because it helps us to be better Buddhists. Then yes, fine. And we should not continue with these practices if it increases our greed, hatred and delusion. Quite obvious. If it makes us more obsessed with all these chantings, more obsessed with these rituals, then of course we should not continue. But if these rituals and chantings increases our generosity, our compassion and our wisdom, then yes, of course we should continue with these practices. So this is something we should keep in mind when we perform these rituals and chantings. Okay, that's the end of this talk. Any questions? Sister?
Rituals and chantings help to delay dementia.
Okay, do rituals and chantings help to delay dementia? Possible. I would say it is possible, in fact very possible. Because when you chant, for example, you must have a certain amount of focus. If you have dementia, it's impossible to chant, because after just a few years you lose your track of mind already. So in fact, also helps in your concentration, helps to develop your concentration to a certain degree. Am I correct? Because if you can chant consistently, properly, and then keep in mind what you are chanting, sure, it will help to delay your dementia. So yes, that is a good practice if you do it correctly. Of course, yes, do, like the sister said, we should do earlier and not too late. So it's a good practice. I mean, you chant as a prelude to other things to remind ourselves of the practice of Buddhism. Yes, we should do it. I mean, for old people also, they can't do anything else than chant. I mean, like some old people, 70, 80 or that, it's very difficult to really practice already. So at the very least, you can chant, keep your mind in tune, keep the connection with the Dharma. I mean, they chant Amitabha, also better than nothing. If they chant taking refuge, is even better. They chant Namo Tassa, is even better. They chant Tisarana, is even better. So it's good to chant with the right intentions and in the right way. Yes, sister? Oh, okay. That means chanting should be done at home or in a temple. Actually, anywhere you can chant. Anywhere you can chant. You can chant at home, you can chant in the temple. In fact, you walk around, you can also chant, but inside yourself. You don't walk the streets, go shopping center, you can chant. But you can do it actually as a form of practice mentally. You do it at home, yes, in the morning or in the evening. It's what you feel like. There's no 100% fixed rule. You must chant in the morning or you must chant in the evening. This is up to your own comfort. You feel better chanting in the morning? Fine. Because some people, they like to do things in the morning. They like to meditate in the morning because the mind is clear. Because if you meditate at night or if you chant at night, there's all the things in the daytime, your mind becomes very messy. So you can't focus properly. But some people like to do it at night because they have more time, they have more peace and quiet. In the morning it's too rushed. So it just depends on the individual. Which time of the day you want to chant, morning, night, afternoon, whatever, tea time, you feel like it, you can just chant. Of course, chanting in the temple is also very good because you're among friends, you can have the energy, you mix around. Also, when you chant in a group, your chanting becomes more accurate. It's a good way to practice. So chanting can be done anytime. And also, at any other times also you can chant, like, you can just keep in mind, not necessarily to chant. Like you're just doing anything, you just keep in mind, may all beings be well and happy, may all beings be well and happy, may all beings be well and happy. May all beings be safe from harm, may all beings be healthy, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free from physical and mental suffering. You just remind yourself, you just chant. I mean, like sometimes you're sitting there doing nothing, right, waiting for your friend, or taking a walk to somewhere quite far away. So you practice mindfulness, you can keep this chant in mind. It's a very good practice. But it's hard to remind yourself, but if you can remember, you can try and do it. So you can do it anytime. So to answer your question, chanting can be done anywhere, anytime. Up to you. Any more questions? Oh, okay, precisely. Okay, yes. Exactly, I forgot to mention that point. Thanks to Sister Elsie. So chanting also can help you overcome fear in certain circumstances. Like just now I said, it gives you confidence. So in the time of fear, in the time of uncertainty, yes, chanting can definitely help you. You just chant Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. At the very least, it helps you to calm your mind. You chant other things, Itipiso, also can. You chant Metta, may all beings be well and happy, also can. It's a good thing. So the point is that the chanting focuses your mind. Because when people are in fear, the reason why they are in fear is because their mind run here, run there, run here, run there. They imagine this, imagine that. They imagine the worst of what's going to happen. They are unsure what's going to happen. So chanting brings your mind back to the present moment, calms you down, focuses your mind. So when your mind doesn't run wild, then you find that your fear actually lessens quite a lot. Because your imagination doesn't run wild. Fear actually is your imagination. Your fear is almost always due to your imagination. It may turn out something totally different. In fact, some people, the fear is totally unjustified one. But because the imagination run well, then the fear take control. But like Sister Elsie said, yes, precisely, when you chant, it helps to calm your mind. It helps your mind to focus. And then from there, you can slowly overcome your fear also. So it is a good practice. Thanks so much for bringing that up. Anything else to add? Sorry? Oh yeah, there's a chanting to share the merits. Oh yeah, of course, you can share the merits after chanting, definitely. I mean, after any good action, you can share merits. After generating any kind of positive karma, any positive action, yes, I agree with you. After chanting, yes, of course, you can share merits. It's a good action. Yes? Okay, to share the merits. Okay, there's a specific chant to share merits with your departed, idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. It's in the chanting sheet, I'll give you all later. Yeah, but actually, this sort of thing, what's more important is yourself. Because even if you know the Pali words, you chant the Pali, but you don't reflect on it, useless. No point. It's better you yourself say, may I share these merits with my departed. May I share the merits of what I have just done. May I share the merits of the good karma I've accumulated with all beings visible, invisible, near and far. Then that counts more than the Pali chanting. You do this, is more effective because your mind is focused. Your mind know what you are doing. Because some people, they chant the Pali. Actually, they just chant the Pali, but their mind is not focused. So it's better you create your own words. To me, it's more effective. Like you want to share merits, you create your own words in your mind. And with your own words, then it becomes really, really much more powerful. So not necessarily you must follow the Pali or any formalized chanting. This sort of thing you can come up with by yourself. I mean, these are good questions because everybody benefits from these questions. Right? So we all have to thank you for asking these questions. Okay, no more questions. Then next week we're going to do some meditation. Okay, so the first part of the lesson will be some Dhammapada stories, and then after that we're going into the background to Buddhist meditation, and then I'm going to run through all of you with Vipassana meditation. So we're going to try it out next week. Okay, so hope to see you all. Thank you.